What's up, Lowrider family? Welcome back to another episode with Lolos and more. Now today we're gonna put together the pumps for the white Cadillac that I'm building for a customer, a good friend of mine. So as you guys can tell, he bought the CCEs. I'm not sure what setup he bought, but I like these. Remind me of my first setup that I ever bought. Because I did buy CCE's competition 2-pump setup that they had back in 2007, 2008. I liked them. Back then they came with the Italian dumps, not with these Delta dumps. But I gotta give it to them. They sent out chrome plated dumps instead of aluminum polished dumps and stuff like that. You know, same with the fittings. They're chromed out instead of just being aluminum or like crappy plated chrome fittings like they were before back in the day. But they stepped up their game. I kind of like the older CCE backing plates. So yeah, we're gonna get started here. Now there is an old trick. It's an old school trick for putting these fittings together. People would put these fittings in the freezer, because as you guys know, in the freezer, in the cold, metal shrinks, and the heat, metal expands. So yeah. So back in the day, they would put the fittings in the fridge, and then, you know, once they're in the fridge for maybe a few hours, I'll pull them out, put them together real quick, you know, which is very useful. I did cool these down, but they've been out for a little bit now, so probably not worth it now. But oh well, it'll still work out, because all you need to put your dump setup together, all you really need, if you don't have a toolbox, you know, stuff like that, all you need is a adjustable wrench, aka crescent wrench, whatever you want to call it, and Teflon tape. Teflon tape is your best friend for putting these pumps together. As you guys can tell, because I still have the caps on, I already pre-did the Teflon job. So, for example, this one right here, you can see how come I didn't do this side. Well, this side has that I forgot the real name of these sides, but it's like a flare. The hose and this act like a flare, so you don't need to put Teflon tape, because this and the hose will make a tight closure, and it won't leak. If it leaks, then either this end is bad or the hose in this area is bad. But yeah, as you guys can see, I got my elbows. The elbows are gonna go on the side of the dumps right here, right there. I got my T, my check valves. Remember, these go in one direction. You put them in a different way, you're gonna screw up your tank. Here you have a fitting, goes into the slowdown. Here comes the T. As you guys can see right there, that small fitting, the slowdown right here, the one with the valve. You can control how fast you want it to go down. And there's that T. So we got the check valves and that bigger T right here. Back in the day, they used to really engrave on the blocks which one's in, which one's out, which one's pressure, which one is return. They still do that. As you guys can tell, P right there for pressure and R for return. Pressure meaning it's coming out. Pressure, return, of course, is coming back in. Because when you hit your up switch, the power goes to this motor. the power converts into the spline key that's inside. This little guy right here, spline key. It does matter which way it goes in, as you guys can tell. This one goes on to the the pump head, the gear, and then that goes on to the motor. Make sure you put that right here before you put the motor on. But yeah, once you hit the switch, fluid jumps out goes from side to side. It'll go out. These check valves will stop the fluid from coming back into the pump. Shoot out this way and straight to the hoses. And then that's it. And when you dump it down, right here, these two wires, don't be afraid to wire them, because it doesn't matter which one's power and which one's ground. So it doesn't matter. One of them is your power, which one's your ground, doesn't matter. When you hit the down switch, this opens up, lets the fluid come out this way to the hose, to the teeth, to the slowdown, and back into the block, into the tank. Easy as that. Some people are looking at the pump right now like, how the hell am I supposed to put this dump setup together? It was pretty simple, really. And I didn't have to take the tank off. The tank stayed where it's at. Everything's done with just that right there in your hands. And people think, well, don't you need a bench vise or more crescent wrenches to tighten stuff down? No, you don't, because as long as you put enough Teflon tape, you don't gotta go crazy. But if you're afraid to, go ahead, go crazy on the Teflon. Put on the fittings and just start screwing them together. And I'll show you guys why I don't need a whole ton of tools for putting the dump setup together. Only need one adjustable wrench. You guys will see here in a second. So I'm gonna set up the camera and we'll be right back. But yeah, you got your motor up here. As you guys can tell, sometimes when you guys receive material, your pumps, you know, this one CCE sent out both motors with the vented caps, which I highly recommend. So yeah, get your return hoses, check valves, and all your fittings. So, and if you're kind of wondering, well, how much, Teflon do I really need to put on the fittings? Don't pull your hairs, okay? The amount that I put on all the fittings of Teflon tape, I put maybe a string about 8 to 10 inches long, a string of Teflon, rolled it on. And the trick for putting them on is, so you got the fitting pointed at you. You do want to put the Teflon on clockwise. If you put it counterclockwise, and when you're screwing it on to another fitting or to a dump, the Teflon's going to come off. So with the threads facing you like that, put on the Teflon clockwise, not counterclockwise. Remember that. That'll help you too. You put it counterclockwise, there's a good chance fittings are going to leak, and then you're going to pull your hair out. So let me set the camera up and we can get started. Okay, so we're going to put the pump over here now. Well, that's built up. So let's go ahead and start on this bad boy. What we're going to put together would be the return stem. So we'll take all these caps off and toss them away. Okay, so when you're doing the slowdown valve, it doesn't matter which direction the flow is going. It really doesn't. So start doing it on there like so, and then hand tighten it as much as you can. Just hand tighten. So that's it for now. So if you want, before you forget, you can go ahead and slip in the spline key right here. There we go. Go on that one. So next up would be putting up the dump assembly itself. Let's go ahead, take the electrical part of the dumps off. It'll make it easier for screwing on the dump part. There we go. Alright. One thing to remember, flow going out to the cylinders is from side to side. Flow going back to the pump is the back side from the candle. That way you know. So, here, let's see. So, we'll grab the T right here. Grab that T. Next, we'll grab the check valves. To stop the fluid from going back into the pump. And remember, you want to see the ball. If you see the ball, like right here, flow goes out this way, goes up. If you see the end where the this clip is, that's the exit part right there. That's the exit part where you see the clip. So if you see the ball, that's the going in. There we go. So since the T is going on the block and it's coming out to the sides, the ball goes into the T. Just like that. Same thing. See the ball goes into the T. So once you got them both in, you can tighten them down as much as you can by hand. Next is the dumps. Now on the dumps, it doesn't matter which direction, as long as from side to side, that it is for going back, for going out to the cylinders. So add that on there. There we go. Do the other side. Alright, and then from here, go ahead and start tightening them up just like this. And this way you don't need the crescent wrench, adjustable wrench all that much. So just keep turning, and you can flip it around and turn this side, but it's all the same stuff really. So. Just keep turning until you can't turn it no more. So there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead right now. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see, screw it onto the block if I'm able to. Nope. I thought I was gonna be able to, but make sure that these are flush before you do that. And if you have to, you can always screw it back the other way just a little bit to be able to get this on there. So I don't want to ruin it. Okay, now the dump setup goes onto the P. Right here, the dump where it says the P, pressure coming out, we're gonna put it right here. So, put you guys back. So once this whole part right here is starting to tighten, what I recommend is go ahead, tighten the dumps. And we'll get a towel to put it between the table and the pump. Okay, so now you can go ahead and tighten the dumps on this side. Once you tighten this side, turn it, and then tighten it to where it looks like the other pump. So this one's pretty tight on there already. So gonna spin it around and try to make sure that for it to make it look clean, that it's sitting pretty flat. This one's not that tight, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it. Wrong way. It does get hard, of course. It's supposed to get hard, duh. So once it's like that, make sure that they're pretty flush on there. So now I'm gonna turn them to make sure that they're tight onto the block itself. You guys don't want to see me do this part, but I'm gonna go ahead, just turn it once onto the block. I'll be right back. Okay, one quick thing. Before I actually tighten this all the way on, I'm gonna put on the side elbows. It'll be easier to tighten this way before this dump on this side is sitting over the tank, and I don't want to risk chipping the chrome on the tank. So take out your adjustable wrench. Just be careful, really, and you won't scratch a thing, believe it or not. As long as you know you put the pressure wrench on and you're twisting it around, you won't ruin anything, you won't scratch up anything. And again, it doesn't have to be super tight on there, because the Teflon tape will do most of the job for you. So there we go. Now, tighten it. Finish tightening it. Okay, so now it's sitting straight. Put the other elbow on, like so. Put it on. Just doing this video on how to put together a double dump setup, because some people feel, you know, they'll look at it and pull their hair out like, how is this supposed to go together? Well, it's actually pretty easy. So, pretty straight. So as long as the dumps aren't loose, it's fine. If you have to put a lot of pressure just to get them to move, then you'll be good. So it won't leak that way. So next thing we can do, we can either put the fittings behind the dumps, or we can go ahead and put the T on. I think we'll go ahead and put the fittings on. We can tighten them up now, or we can do it later before putting on the return hoses. So, and when you're doing with hoses, from hose to fittings, it's always going to have this bevel part right here, the flare part, whatever you want to call it. If you know the name of these ends, then comment down below. So, go ahead and tighten them. So, there we go. Doesn't have to be super tight. You could do a socket, put it right over it, do it that way, but then you run the risk of leaving circle scratches on the back of the dumps. You know, you can do it to your own stuff, but this isn't mine. It's for a customer, a good friend. Last thing I want to do is scratch anything, make it look bad. Just about tight. There we go. So that part is done. Go ahead and put on the return stem. Remember, It does not matter which way the slowdown is. So go ahead, just screw it on. All of this is not going to line up until you start tightening it down. So when you're tightening it, and say for example the first fitting stops spinning, and go ahead, I recommend taking the adjustable wrench and finishing it off that way. So let's do that. Okay, that bottom fitting is now tightened. Let's go ahead and tighten down the slowdown. There we go. Just about tightened. Now let's do the top fitting. This one you kind of want to be careful with because you're putting the adjustable wrench where the threads are at. So don't try not to ruin it. So as you can see, now the rest of it's spinning, so it'll work out. Cool. So I'm gonna make a quick phone call, but I'm gonna make sure this is all aligned. So I need to call the wife or something before she comes home because I need some. So when we come back, this will be straight. Hold on. Okay. So I aligned it. So all I gotta do now is spin the entire thing over. Now I know this is like the boring part, just watching you putting these pumps together, but I guess if you guys really want to know how the dump setup goes together. Because there's some people out there that just look at the pumps and say, how in the hell did you put that together? It looks like this and this and that are going to hit each other if you try to tighten it. So, alright. So that's tightened. So now the entire thing is squared. Here. Damn. Bit of a workout. But yeah. It's all done by hand and one adjustable wrench. So everything is square. What's next is the return hoses. So do those real quick. So this part, what I recommend you do is hand tighten it. Not all the way. So once it feels like it's snug on there, go back about a quarter of the way. What you're going to want to do is bend the hose. And see how this part's spinning? It lets it spin. And as I'm tightening the bottom one, I am shaking the hose up and down and tightening it by hand all the way. So that one's on there. Now let's do this one. Tighten it by hand all the way as far as it goes. There we go. Do the other side. Now the reason for that is for when I take the adjustable wrench to tighten the hose down, is for the hose not to kink up, because when you run these hoses, the rubber part will start to rip, and then you'll start seeing the steel braid on the inside. So you don't want that. Okay. Do the same thing. My bad, I just noticed that the camera shut off. But I went ahead, put the other hose on. I tightened them. Both hoses. So we're good on there. And then I'll put the coil packs back onto the dumps. Right here. So just simply tighten it up by hand. So now we're going to put on the motor right there. So when doing the motor, I suggest you set up the pump just like this. So let's get to it. When you get brand new motors, they're going to have these little square nuts on there. I don't know if you can see them, but go ahead and take those off. I probably should have taken those off before the video. And then put those nuts on, those square nuts on, just so that the motor itself doesn't come apart while it's being shipped. Because some people don't know how to put the motors back together after the top end and the bottom end come loose. Which is simple, but it can be a bit of a pain if you don't know exactly what's going on. So yep, should have done it before, because now I'm just wasting some time. Okay, so took the square nuts off. Now time to put this on the block itself, and then let the motor shaft sit into the spline key. Let it lay in there until the motor itself sits flat, flush with the block, Because if you force it in, if you think, oh, it's in, the shaft is in the spline key, and you're going to start tightening down these bolts, and you're going to ruin that spline key, and then you're going to ruin these holes. You have to re-tap them and use something thicker. So first, there we go. Set it in just like that. So let's see. Like that. So on this motor, on this pump, I want the motor, the stud motor, the power stud facing on the other side. Let's see. Just raise this nuts a little bit. Turn it. Okay, so I'll let the nuts, not the nuts, but the bolts do kind of sit in there, and tightening it at the same time. Kind of give them kind of shake the motor so that they want to go in as far as they can. There we go. Alright, you can get out your half-inch socket and tighten them up. This doesn't have to be super tight on there because it is an aluminum block. You can easily strip out these long bolts. So there we go. We got a whole pump. So there we go. 2 assembled pumps ready to go. Easy as that. Took maybe what? Took me probably 30 minutes with recording. So yeah. Nice and straight. Flush. This one's gonna be the, I don't know. I haven't decided which one's gonna be the front, which one's gonna be the back, because they're the same thing. Because we're doing a front, back, side to side on these pumps. So, and remember to do a true side to side. You guys need to have 4 pumps. That way it goes up on one side and then up on the other. But for 2 pumps, 4 dumps, you can only go down side to side. You can't go up and down. Oh, just down. You know what I'm saying. You guys know what I'm saying. But it's easy as that. And once these pumps are in the car, you also want to put some Teflon tape on these tank plugs, because with all the pressure inside these tanks, oil's gonna want to sip out, and you'll get some oil on the trunk floor, and you kind of don't want that. So yeah, that's it for this video. Next video you guys see will probably be me doing the bridge to the Cadillac or wiring up the switches. One of those two. So hopefully you guys liked the video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. But this is just to show you that it's easy to put a 2 dump setup on the 4 pump. It's pretty easy. You do the main part first, do the small part, and then hoses, and you're pretty much done. And going back to the Teflon, how much that Teflon to use about 8 to 10 inches long of Teflon. Put them on clockwise, and making sure that these check valves right here are put on the correct direction. They're put in the wrong way, you're gonna ruin this pump. You don't want to do that. So that's it for this video. If you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you guys do. Alright, like the video. Alright? Do that for me. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. That's something big for me, you know. This channel's been up for a year now, so subscribe, people. Subscribe. So we'll catch you next time. Peace.